Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we cut through the noise and get straight to the insights you need to be truly well-informed. Today, we're diving deep into something, well, incredibly personal and really impactful. Lasting personal change, emotional regulation, and we're looking at it all through this cutting-edge neuroscience lens. Have you ever felt like you're just, working against these invisible barriers? Even when you totally get your patterns, you have the motivation, but change just doesn't stick. I know I have. And it seems like so many high-achieving people get caught in these frustrating loops, right? Anxiety, procrastination, maybe self-doubt. It's like you understand the problem, you really want to change, but something's just not quite clicking. Feels like your own brain is subtly fighting back. Almost.
That's exactly it. And that's the core issue we're digging into today. If the usual approaches, haven't given you those lasting shifts you're looking for, there might actually be a really profound neurological reason why. Recent neuroscience is showing us that real, sustainable change, it needs you to engage multiple systems in your brain all at once. It's not just about conscious understanding. The big insight here is that your brain has, a lot more say in the process than maybe you thought, and it's constantly adapting, constantly changing, whether you're consciously directing it or not.
Okay, wow. Let's definitely unpack that. How can your brain become, like, your best ally in creating the life you actually want? So, where do we even start with this amazing, complex brain of ours? The sources sort of kick us off with this foundational idea, neuroplasticity in action. Now, most people have heard our brains can learn new things, right? But what's the deeper layer here? Is it just the brain's always ready for new tricks?
That's a really good question. Because the truly profound part isn't just that your brain can change. It's that it's always changing. Like right now, every thought you focus on, every emotion you kind of lean into, that's literally strengthening specific neural pathways. It's actively sculpting the brain you'll have tomorrow. And the exciting thing for anyone listening is you absolutely can harness this. You can guide this natural rewiring. The sources really emphasize that targeted interventions, things that combine, say, cognitive work, emotional regulation, and that somatic body awareness piece, they can dramatically speed up the process. It really moves beyond just trying to think your way out of a pattern. It's about engaging your whole system.
That makes so much more sense. It's holistic. Okay, so if we're talking targeted interventions, the sources highlight something called emotional freedom techniques, or EFT. Now, the name itself might sound a little out there for some.
Yeah.
Can you demystify what EFT actually is? And maybe more importantly, what does the research really tell us about how effective it is, especially for, calming the nervous system down?
Absolutely. So EFT, basically, it works by having you tap on specific acupressure points, similar spots to acupuncture, but no needles involved. And while you're tapping, you focus on and process specific emotional content, like an upsetting memory or a limiting belief. This combination does something quite specific. It helps to calm your nervous system's threat response. It sends a signal to your brain, essentially saying, hey, it's safe now. You can let go of this emotional charge. And you're right to ask about research. It's not just anecdotal. EFT has been studied pretty extensively, actually. There's research published in peer-reviewed journals showing it's effective for things like anxiety, PTSD, even just general stress reduction. It's a very practical tool for shifting your state pretty quickly.
Okay, so it's not just thinking differently. It's literally using the body, the tapping, to shift how the brain is responding. That leads perfectly into what the sources are calling the deep science of transformation, exploring brainwave states. Our brains operate at different frequencies, yeah. What makes understanding these states so important for change? What's like the fascinating part about them?
What's truly fascinating, I think, is how these different brainwave states directly impact your ability to learn, to heal, to actually make those deep transformations. See, your brain cycles through different frequencies all day long. You've got beta waves, that's about 13 to 30 hertz. That's our normal waking consciousness. Keeps us alert, analytical, but the downside is it can also keep us kind of locked in that analytical thinking, sometimes even in stress responses. Makes it hard to shift those old automatic patterns. Then you have alpha waves, that's around 8 to 13 hertz. These are states of more relaxed awareness, deep creativity. You often get into alpha through meditation, mindfulness, and importantly, practices like EFT can induce it too. What's key about alpha is that your conscious and subconscious minds seem to communicate better. That's why insights, those aha moments, often pop up when you're in that relaxed alpha state. And then there are theta waves, slower still, 4 to 8 hertz, often associated with REM sleep, deep meditation. Theta states seem to give more direct access to the unconscious programming, the stuff that drives our automatic behaviors and emotional reactions. So the implication for you listening is really powerful. You can learn specific techniques to intentionally shift your brain waves. You can create the optimal internal conditions for rewiring those limiting patterns and installing new, more empowering neural networks. It really puts you back in the driver's seat.
Wow, it really does sound like upgrading the mind's operating system. Okay, so if we're busy building these new pathways, what happens to the old ones? The ones that aren't really helping us anymore? That brings us to the brain's amazing ability to sort of clean house. The sources call it synaptic pruning. How does that remodeling actually work? Is it automatic?
It's remarkably precise and, yes, largely automatic based on usage. Your brain is constantly evaluating which connections are being used, which are becoming, well, obsolete. Connections that aren't used much are literally pruned away. You can think of it like a really efficient gardener in your brain, trimming back the pathways that aren't bearing fruit anymore. Meanwhile, the pathways you do use frequently, they get stronger, more efficient, more automatic. So when you consistently practice new ways of thinking, new emotional responses, new behaviors, you're not just building new pathways. You're also sending a clear signal to your brain, hey, we don't need these old limiting connections as much anymore. Prune them back. And the beauty is you don't have to consciously try to delete the old stuff. You just need to consistently choose and reinforce the new. The pruning follows naturally.
Use it or lose it. Literally wiring the brain. Okay, so if the brain is constantly pruning and strengthening based on use, how does that mechanism really lock in new habits or patterns? This feels like it connects directly to that fundamental idea from the sources, Donald Hebb's famous principle, right? What fires together wires together. The bedrock of learning and change. How does that play out day to day?
Exactly. Hebb's principle explains why habits, both the good ones and the ones we want to change, become so deeply ingrained. When certain neurons, certain pathways activate at the same time repeatedly, the connection between them gets stronger. They wire together. So, for example, if you consistently react to, say, criticism with feelings of shame and self-doubt, those specific neurons firing together strengthens that particular pathway. It becomes faster, more automatic, almost a default setting. But, and this is the hopeful part, the same principle works in reverse. When you intentionally and consistently pair new thoughts with new emotional responses, maybe responding to criticism with curiosity instead of shame, you create and strengthen new neural networks, networks that actually support the outcomes you want. And practices like guided visualization, EFT, various somatic practices, these are tools that help you intentionally create new firing patterns. You're literally designing your brain's future responses.
It's incredible the level of intention we can bring to our own neural architecture. Okay, let's shift focus slightly to emotions. The sources talk about the alchemy of emotional neutralization. Now, traditional approaches often focus on managing emotions, which honestly can feel like a constant struggle sometimes. But this sounds different. Transforming the energy of difficult emotions, that sounds like a potential game changer. What's the core idea?
It really is a different paradigm. Emotional alchemy fundamentally is about transforming the raw energy of difficult emotions, anger, fear, sadness, into something useful, into wisdom, into empowerment. See, the core problem isn't the emotion itself. Emotions are just energy in motion. But when we resist them or we get totally caught up in the stories around them, that energy gets stuck, trapped in our nervous system. And that's what creates those chronic stress patterns, those limiting beliefs that hold us back. So the key to emotional freedom isn't suppression or even just management. It's learning to feel the emotion fully, to acknowledge its presence, but to do so while staying centered, curious rather than reactive. And techniques like EFT, certain breathing practices, they help you learn how to move that emotional energy through your system efficiently. You learn to extract the message, the wisdom the emotion might be carrying, and then release its energetic charge. This literally transforms your relationship with challenging experiences. It allows you to be more present, more compassionate, more responsive, instead of just automatically reactive.
That makes perfect sense and leads right into the next piece. Letting go. The art of conscious release. I think so many of us get this intellectually. We know we need to let go of old resentments or limiting beliefs about ourselves, whatever it is. But actually doing it, feeling it release on that deep embodied level, that's often where the struggle is. Why is that so hard? And what does the neuroscience perspective offer to make it easier?
It's hard precisely because letting go isn't just a mental decision. It's not just thinking, okay, I let this go now. It's a full system process. It involves your thoughts, yes, but also your emotions, and critically, your nervous system. And here's the crucial insight from a neuroscience perspective. True. Lasting letting go requires creating a sense of safety in your nervous system first. Your body, your nervous system, needs to believe it's genuinely safe to release those old patterns. Remember, those patterns, even the unhelpful ones, often serve some kind of protective purpose way back when. This is why approaches that include significant somatic or body-based work are so important. They help you learn to recognize the physical sensations of holding on versus the sensation of release. There's also often a piece around grieving what you're leaving behind, even if it's a limiting pattern. It was familiar. So it's about learning to release with maybe gratitude for the lesson rather than trying to force it out. That creates the space for new possibilities to actually emerge naturally.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Neuroplasticity, brain waves, pruning, wiring new patterns together, that emotional alchemy idea, and truly letting go by creating safety. These are all powerful, interconnected insights. So what does this all mean for someone listening right now? How can you practically start applying these principles? The sources mention a specific approach, a kind of integrated journey.
Yes, exactly. It's about bringing it all together into a structured path. The core training components we see mentioned integrate these pieces. Things like practical neuroscience education, understanding how behavior change works in the brain, and EFT techniques specifically for emotional regulation, add in mindfulness and visualization practices, strategies for recognizing and interrupting old patterns, work on building a future-focused identity, and really importantly, daily integration tools, things you can actually use day to day. It aims to be a comprehensive framework for making that lasting change.
That sounds incredibly thorough. Now, a practical question a lot of people might have. How does this kind of neuroscience-informed approach fit with other support they might already have? Like if someone's already working with a therapist or a coach, is this meant to replace that?
No, not at all. That's a really important point. It's designed specifically to work alongside other forms of support, not replace them. Think of it this way. Therapy often excels at processing past experiences, digging into the why, and providing ongoing emotional support, which is vital. This kind of training focuses more specifically on skill building, giving you practical tools you can use independently right now. It also has a strong future orientation, focusing on actively creating new patterns, not just understanding old ones. Plus, that heavy emphasis on somatic integration, engaging your body's wisdom and the structured practice needed to really embed new habits. Actually, many participants report that this kind of training significantly enhances the work they're already doing with their therapist or coach. It provides a powerful, actionable complement.
Okay, that clarifies things. And to make the benefits really concrete, maybe a bit more relatable for you listening, here are a couple of direct experiences shared in the source material. There was Sarah, a marketing director. She said the course gave her, and I quote, "practical tools I use daily." She found the mix of understanding the neuroscience and having techniques like EFT really shifted how she handled stress. Then there was Dr. Michael, a family physician. He really appreciated the scientific foundation. He said, as a healthcare professional, he wanted evidence-based stuff, and the research behind EFT was compelling for him. And one more, Maria, a small business owner. She found that the 90-day follow-up was crucial. It helped her stay consistent, especially when those old patterns tried to creep back in.
Yeah, those examples really underscore the importance of integration over time. Change isn't usually a one-off event. Consistent practice is key. That's why having something like a structured 90-day follow-up period, like Maria mentioned, can be so valuable for truly embedding those new neural pathways. So summing it up, if these ideas we've discussed today are resonating with you, this kind of approach might be a really good fit if you want to complement personal development work you're already doing, if you prefer evidence-based methods, if you're ready to commit to some consistent daily practice, if you value integrating both emotional and cognitive approaches to growth, and if you're looking for practical tools for long-term independence. And, of course, the necessary professional disclaimer. This kind of work is educational. It focuses on personal development, emotional regulation skills. It is absolutely not a substitute for medical treatment, psychological therapy, or other professional mental health services. Always consult with qualified professionals for those needs.
Right. So as we wrap up this deep dive, the core message seems to be this. Your brain. It isn't just passively receiving your efforts to change. It's actually this incredibly powerful, adaptable partner in your journey toward lasting change.
Exactly. Understanding these neuroscience principles, it genuinely empowers you. It lets you intentionally engage your brain's amazing natural capacity for rewiring itself. It's really about learning to work with your brain's own processes rather than feeling like you're constantly fighting against them.
So maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. Consider how much more might be possible for you When you start seeing your brain not as some stubborn barrier you have to overcome, but as the most sophisticated, powerful ally you possess for creating the life you truly desire, what small, consistent new input will you choose to give your amazing brain today? That's all for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.